Multicultural education. In today's society, students are not as enthused with learning about social studies as they are other subjects, where students must know how to add, subtract, divide, multiply, speak properly, write correctly, and know different science skills. They are not as pressed to know about social studies. I, for one, believe that this is equally as important as all other subjects. We as teachers must make it more interesting and fun to learn about so the student will want to know more. History and where we come from is so important to know. I believe that this can be acquired through implementing multicultural education and culturally relevant pedagogy into the lessons and classroom. America is known as a melting pot. This means that there are many various races and cultures in our nation. When desegregation took place, there was a major change in society. This has accounted for increased diversity in the classroom. We as teachers must account for academic, emotional, and religious considerations and diversity. All classrooms are diverse in more ways than one. Teachers must be able to adapt to accommodate their students' needs. Multicultural education is teaching and being able to reach all students in the classroom from every culture and background. It was initially defined as the education process that is for all students who are not white men, which in fact it is for all students to have a broadened perspective on the different events in social studies. I believe that this is important so that no student is left out when it comes to learning, and they feel equally as important as the next man or woman. It also encourages and challenges critical thinking, which is so vital in today's society. Service level thinking is just not good enough anymore. Culturally relevant pedagogy focuses on using the culture and background of students to help them achieve academically. The main criteria or ideas of culturally relevant pedagogy is that the student experience academic success, maintain and or develop cultural competence, and lastly, the students must develop a critical consciousness in which they change the norm of society. The term relevant means necessary. This means that no race or background should be exempt from the lesson, no matter what. If this is incorporated, I believe that each child will have an input in the lesson, whether it is information that the student shares or information that the student receives. These ideas are not just something that should be implemented into the classroom. The entire school and community should be involved in different activities that the students are doing to represent and learn about each other. All schools should participate in most of these events so that they are practicing cultural equality. Here are some events that will show appreciation to all races. An annual Martin Luther King Assembly. Also kindergarten multicultural night and concert, which all would be invited. This would include a concert by the kindergarten students, presentations and food prepared by kindergarten families that represent their cultural or ethnic backgrounds, as well as activities and art projects from around the world. ASB sponsored Family Heritage Spirit Day. Students will encourage dressing to represent their family's cultural heritage. PTSA sponsored art docent program, PTSA sponsored talent show. Multicultural education has 5 dimensions to it. They are easy to implement if done correctly. The first dimension is content integration. Teachers use many different approaches to integrate culture in content. Unfortunately, oftentimes this is only brought about around holidays, such as Martin Luther King Jr. Day or Cinco de Mayo. Although these are very relevant holidays, there must be more cultural integration in the content other than just important holidays. The second dimension is knowledge construction. Knowledge construction and transformation is when each view and perspective is accounted for. The students become the center of the content, and it allows them to see how knowledge is constructed and how it reflects the diverse experiences and values. The students must realize that while living in a very diverse world, we share so many like customs, values, beliefs, and political ideas that firmly shape our nation. Equity pedagogy is the third dimension. Is just the modification of the teacher's teaching methods in order to reach all students and genders. Research has proven that African American students and Hispanic students learn more from cooperative learning groups. It is important for teachers and students of different races and backgrounds to work together to share perspectives and learn from each other. Next, in the fourth dimension, prejudice reduction is brought out. The classroom should be a safe and comfortable environment that each and every student feels that they are important and can give input so that others can learn from them. Teachers should be sensitive and alert to prejudices in the classroom. These are learned behaviors and stem from somewhere very influential on the student. It is the teacher's job to teach right from wrong and to show that all students are equal. Lastly, the fifth dimension is empowering school and social cultures. Empowerment is huge when it comes to education. All students are different, but nothing is more inspiring to them than empowerment and giving them positive reinforcement for doing something good or to motivate them to do better. This idea is not just from the academic standpoint, but also to deal with racial issues that may arise. Students should rise above conforming to unorthodox behavior and prejudice activities that could influence them to make wrong decisions. Some books that can relate to multicultural education are Number the Stars, which is by Lois Lowry. This is a phenomenal book told from the viewpoint of a 10-year-old Anna Marie Johansson. It takes place in Denmark in 1943. Anna Marie is forced to stay with her best friend Ellen and has to pretend to be real family to escape from German soldiers. This book is ranked high on the multicultural education list. Next, Grandfather's Journey by Alan Say is a story of a young man who leaves his homeland of Japan to travel to California and view the beautiful sights. The young man began to miss his homeland and wanted to travel back to Japan to review the beautiful sights and marry his sweetheart again. He begins to miss his home, so he travels back to California. The young man's daughter grows up and decides to travel back to Japan. Later on, her son hears of his grandfather's journey and decides to travel to America, where he realizes and understands his journey and its relevance. Lastly, American Born Chinese by Jean Wing Yang is a story of a boy named Jin Wang. He starts at a new school where he's the only Chinese American student. A new kid from Taiwan also joins his class. Jin wants to be an All-American boy because he's in love with an All-American girl. This is a great read to see the different perspectives of people of different cultures living in America and what they may face that we don't even notice. According to our text, multicultural education can be approached in many different ways. There's the contributions approach. This approach is more common than the rest. Many teachers use this approach to integrate multicultural education on their own rather than something that has already been set into place. A limitation to this approach, however, is that some of the well-intentioned activities can cause more harm than good. A second approach is the additive approach. This approach includes books, units, or courses that add to the existing curriculum. A limitation to this approach is that some students may have a negative feeling and see the books and units as appendages rather than a course of study. The transformational approach changes the curriculum already put into place and restructures it to provide a variety of cultural perspectives. Lastly, the social action approach builds on the transformational approach. It adds dimensions and encourages students to think critically and take appropriate action. Also, in this approach, students must be able to differentiate between our idols and social realities. With all this being said, I believe that it is important for teachers to understand their classroom and the diversity within. Each teacher should have a different method that fits their particular class. Each student deserves a right and clear path to a fair and equal education as their peers. The teacher should incorporate the different cultures in lessons, and every child should have a viewpoint that is important, and they should also be able to see and know exactly what is going on